The great hall of Nexus Prime buzzed with worry and fear. Hundreds of alien beings filled the massive chamber, their voices mixing into a sound like distant thunder. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council had been called for one reason. 3 exploration fleets had vanished near the black hole called Charybdis 7, and no one knew what happened to them. Commander Lisa Hayes sat in the human section, watching the aliens around her. She had been to many council meetings before, but she had never seen them this scared. The Zephyrians, who looked like living crystals, were glowing with nervous energy. Their light flickered on and off as they spoke in their singing voices about old stories their people told about black holes. "The Void Devourers," said their speaker, a tall crystal being named Shaolin. "Our ancestors warned us about these cosmic monsters. They eat everything that comes near them. Ships, planets, even light itself cannot escape." The Nebulans floated in their special tanks, their gas-like bodies swirling with colors that showed their emotions. Right now, those colors were all dark blues and grays, the colors of fear and sadness. Their representative, a cloud of purple, mist called Wispara, spoke through a voice box. "We have run the numbers 1,000 times, Wispara said. "No ship has ever returned from inside a black hole. The math is clear. Nothing can survive the crushing force. Nothing can escape once it crosses the event horizon." The Cognitrons, who were more machine than living being, presented their data on floating screens. Their leader, Unit 7742, spoke in a flat, emotionless voice that somehow still managed to sound worried. "Statistical analysis confirms 0 survival rate for all vessels approaching black holes within 50,000 kilometers. Recommendation: immediate prohibition of all travel to Charybdis 7 sector." Lisa listened to speaker after speaker. The 4-armed Thanax told stories of their bravest warriors who had tried to explore black holes centuries ago and never returned. The Veltari, who looked like giant butterflies, fluttered their wings nervously as they shared their peoples. Poems about the darkness that swallows stars. Every species had the same message. Black holes meant death. Stay away at all costs. Elder Vextar, the ancient leader of the Hegemony Council, finally stood up. He was old even by his people's standards, with gray scales covering his reptilian body and eyes that had seen thousands of years of galactic history. When he spoke, everyone listened. "My fellow beings," he said, his deep voice carrying across the silent chamber. "We have heard enough. The evidence is clear. Charybdis 7 and all black holes like it are forbidden zones. No ship should go near them. No exploration missions should be approved. We must protect our people from these cosmic predators." Murmurs of agreement filled the hall. Heads nodded, wings flapped, and various alien appendages moved in gestures of approval. This was the smart choice, the safe choice, the only choice that made sense. All in favor of declaring Charybdis 7 off-limits to all galactic traffic? Hundreds of voices called out yes in dozens of languages. Lights flashed, colors changed, and mechanical voices beeped approval. The vote was almost unanimous. "The motion passes," Elder Vextar announced. "Charybdis 7 is now forbidden. Any ship that approaches within 100,000 kilometers will be turned back by Council forces." But then the Elder paused. He looked directly at the human section. "The Earth delegation has not voted," he said. "Commander Hayes, what is humanity's position?" Lisa stood up slowly. All eyes in the chamber turned to her. She was small compared to most of the other beings present, but she stood straight and tall. Her simple blue uniform looked plain next to the elaborate costumes and natural beauty of the other species, but her voice was clear and strong. "Earth requests time to consider this proposal," she said. The chamber erupted in surprised voices. The Zephyrion's crystals flashed bright red with shock. The Nebulan's colors swirled in confusion. Even the emotionless cognitrons made beeping sounds that suggested surprise. Elder Vextar raised one clawed hand for silence. Commander Hayes, surely you cannot be considering sending your people into certain death. Even humans are not that reckless. Lisa smiled slightly. With respect, Elder Vextar, humans have our own way of looking at impossible situations. We need time to study the data and make our own decision. But the mathematics are clear. Unit 7742 protested. No organic life can survive inside a black hole. The stories all agree, added Shalolin. Every culture has legends about the dangers of void devourers. Lisa nodded politely. We understand your concerns, but Earth has not made its final decision. We will respond within 30 standard days. The meeting ended with confused whispers and worried conversations. As the aliens filed out of the chamber, many of them looked back at the small human delegation, with expressions that could only be described as pity. They were certain they were watching a species decide to commit suicide not far away on Earth. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was working late in her laboratory. She had been listening to the council meeting through the communication relay, and now she was more excited than ever. While the galaxy's greatest minds were focused on why black holes were impossible to survive, Elena was focused on something else entirely. She was figuring out how to do the impossible. Her laboratory was filled with complex machines and floating displays, showing her latest breakthrough. For months, she had been working on gravitational shielding technology. The theory was simple, but the practice was incredibly difficult. If she could create a field that pushed back against gravity itself, maybe a ship could survive the crushing forces inside a black hole. Admiral Jake Patterson walked into the laboratory just as Elena was running her latest test. A small metal ball floated in the center of a machine that created artificial gravity fields. As Elena adjusted the controls, the ball began to glow with a soft blue light. Show me what you have, Doctor, the Admiral said. Elena's eyes were bright with excitement. Admiral, I think we can do it. My gravitational deflector can push back against even the strongest gravity fields. But that is not the most interesting part. She brought up a new display showing energy readings from Charybdis 7. I have been studying the data from the missing ships. Look at these patterns. The Admiral studied the swirling lines and numbers. What am I looking at? These are not the energy signatures of a normal black hole, Admiral. There are artificial elements mixed in, structured patterns that suggest some kind of technology. What if Charybdis 7 is not just a black hole? What if it is something else entirely? Admiral Patterson leaned forward. Are you saying it might be safe to approach? I am saying it might be more than just a cosmic death trap. The other species are so afraid of black holes that they never looked closely enough to notice the unusual readings. They see only the danger. But what if the danger is hiding something incredible? The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. How long before your shielding technology is ready for testing? Elena smiled. 3 weeks, Admiral. Give me 3 weeks, and I can give you a ship that might survive a journey into the impossible. Outside Earth's atmosphere, the stars seemed to twinkle a little brighter, as if the universe itself was holding its breath to see what humans would do next. In the vast darkness of space, Charybdis 7 continued its cosmic dance, pulling in matter and light, keeping its secrets hidden in the depths of twisted space and timed out soon. Those secrets might finally have visitors brave enough or foolish enough to uncover them. 3 weeks had passed since the Galactic Council, and all travel to Charybdis 7. The alien worlds thought the matter was settled. Black holes were death traps, and no sane being would go near them. They were wrong about humans being sane. The UES Intrepid launched from Luna Station on a quiet Tuesday morning. Captain Ryan Cross stood on the bridge, watching Earth grow smaller in the view screen. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations with calm efficiency. Every person on the ship had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might never come. HOME Dr. Elena Rodriguez sat at the science station, her fingers dancing over the controls as she monitored the gravitational deflector array. The new technology hummed softly throughout the ship, creating invisible fields that would protect them from the crushing forces they would soon face. At least, that was the theory. They would find out if it really worked soon enough. Amy Foster gripped the pilot controls with steady hands. She had flown through asteroid fields and solar storms, but this mission was different. She was about to pilot the first ship in galactic history into a black hole. The thought should have terrified her, but instead she felt excited. This was what she had trained for her whole life. Carlos Mendez checked and rechecked the ships. Systems from his engineering station. The Intrepid was humanity's most advanced vessel, built specifically for this mission. Every part of it was designed to survive the impossible. He had helped build many of those parts himself, and he trusted his work. He just hoped the universe would cooperate. Dr. Nathan Brooks prepared the medical bay for whatever they might encounter. As the ship's doctor, he had studied every theory about what happened to living beings near black holes. Most of those theories ended with death. He pushed those thoughts away and focused on his preparations. His job was to keep the crew alive, no matter what they found. Captain Cross had commanded ships for 15 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. He looked around at his crew and felt proud. These 50 men and women represented the best of humanity. They were about to do something that every other species in the galaxy thought was impossible. The Intrepid traveled through normal space for 2 weeks before reaching the edge of the Andromeda sector. That was where they met the Zephyrian patrol. Fleet waiting for them. Captain Zaxel commanded the crystal ships that blocked their path. Her vessel was beautiful, made of living crystal that glowed with inner light. She had been ordered to turn back any ship trying to reach Charybdis 7, but she had never expected to actually encounter one. Human vessel. Her musical voice came through the communication system. You are approaching a forbidden zone. Turn back immediately. Captain Cross stepped forward to the communication screen. Captain Zaxel, this is Captain Cross of the Earthship Intrepid. We appreciate your concern, but Earth did not agree to the Council's prohibition. We have the right to continue. The crystal being's light flickered with distress. Captain Cross, you do not understand. No ship has ever returned from a black hole. You are taking your crew to certain death. Maybe, Cross replied calmly, but that is our choice to make. Zaxel's ship moved closer, its crystal hull glowing brighter with emotion. I cannot allow this. Your species may not value life, but I do. I will not watch 50 beings die for no reason. Amy Foster's hands tightened on the controls. 3 more Zephyrian ships were moving to block their path. The crystal vessels were faster than the Intrepid, and their weapons could disable human technology without destroying it. The aliens were trying to save them, whether they wanted to be saved or not. Captain, Amy said quietly, they are powering up their restraint beams. If they hit us with those, we will be stuck here until a council ship arrives to escort us home. Cross nodded. He had expected this. Elena, are the gravitational shields ready? Dr. Rodriguez checked her readings. Ready, Captain. But I have never tested them against Zephyrian technology. Time to find out. Amy, take us through their formation. Elena, activate shields on my mark. The Intrepid accelerated toward the crystal ships. Captain Zaxel's voice filled the bridge with urgent warnings. Stop immediately. We will fire. Blue beams shot out from the Zephyrian vessels, designed to wrap around the human ship and hold it in place. But when the energy beams hit the Intrepids, gravitational fields, something unexpected happened. The beams bent around the ship like water, flowing around a rock. Impossible. Zaxel's voice cracked with shock. How are you deflecting our restraint beams? Amy piloted the Intrepid through the gap between two crystal ships. We are clear, Captain. The Zephyrians are falling behind. Cross felt sorry for Captain Zaxel. She was trying to save lives, just like he was. But she could not understand that sometimes you had to risk everything to achieve something great. News of the human ship's escape spread quickly through the galaxy's communication networks. Within hours, every major civilization knew that the humans were actually going to attempt black hole entry. The reaction was swift and universal. Shock, disbelief, and pity for a species that seemed determined to destroy itself. On the bridge of the Intrepid, Dr. Rodriguez was studying the long-range sensors as they approached. Charybdis 7. What she found made her more excited than worried. Captain, you need to see this, she called out. Cross joined her at the science station. The view screen showed a swirling mass of darkness surrounded by glowing matter spiraling inward. It looked like every image of a black hole he had ever seen. But Elena was pointing to something else. Look at these energy readings, she said. I am detecting patterns that do not match any natural black hole. There are structured signals mixed in with a normal radiation. Carlos Mendez looked up from his engineering station. Structured how? Like transmissions. Very faint, but definitely artificial. And Captain, there is something else. I am picking up traces of the missing alien ships. The bridge went quiet. Captain Cross stared at the readings. Are you saying those ships are still intact? The energy signature suggests they are. Yes. Disabled maybe, but not destroyed. Captain, what if the other species are wrong about black holes? What if this one is not what it appears to be? Dr. Brooks joined them at the science station. If those ships survived, their crews might still be alive. We could be looking at a rescue mission instead of a suicide run. Amy Foster called out from the pilot's seat. Captain, we are approaching the point of no return. Once we cross the event horizon, there is no going back. We need to decide now. Captain Cross looked around at his crew. He saw determination in their faces, not fear. These people trusted him to make the right choice. He thought about the missing alien crews who might be trapped and waiting for rescue. He thought about Dr. Rodriguez's discovery that Charybdis 7 might be more than just a cosmic death trap. Most of all, he thought about what it meant to be human. Other species looked at the impossible and turned away. Humans looked at the impossible and figured out how to make it possible. Elena, are the gravitational shields at full power? Yes, Captain. All systems are ready. Amy, take us in. The pilot's hands moved over the controls, setting course for the event horizon. All crew, prepare for black hole entry. Throughout the ship, 50 humans checked their safety harnesses and took deep breaths. They were about to do something no living being had ever done before. They were about to fly into the heart of darkness itself and see what secrets it held. Behind them, the Zephyrian patrol ships watched in horror as the human vessel disappeared into the swirling darkness of Charybdis 7. Captain, Zaxel sent an emergency message to the Galactic Council. The humans have entered the black hole. They are gone. But on the bridge of the Intrepid, Captain Cross and his crew were very much alive and about to discover that the universe held wonders beyond anything they had ever imagined. The Intrepid crossed the event horizon of Charybdis 7, and nothing happened the way it was supposed to. According to every scientific model in the galaxy, the ship should have been crushed instantly. The crew should have been stretched and torn apart by forces no living thing could survive. Instead, they found themselves flying through something that looked more like a tunnel than the inside of a black hole. Captain Cross gripped his command chair as the ship shook gently. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with focused calm. The gravitational shields were holding, but the readings on their instruments made no sense at all. "Elena, what are you seeing?" Cross asked. Dr. Rodriguez stared at her displays with wide eyes. "Captain, this is impossible. We are inside a structure. The gravitational forces are being channeled, controlled somehow. This is not a natural black hole." The view screen showed a tunnel of twisted space and time stretching ahead of them. The walls glowed with strange light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Streams of energy flowed around them, carrying debris and matter in organized patterns. Amy, Foster fought to control the ship as they moved through currents of gravity that pushed and pulled them in different directions. "It is like flying through rapids," she said. "The gravitational flows are following specific paths." Carlos Mendez monitored the ship's systems. "The quantum anchors are working. Our time flow is staying stable, even though the space around us is completely twisted." Dr. Brooks checked the crew's vital signs. "Everyone is fine. No signs of the stretching effects we expected. Whatever this place is, it is not trying to kill us." As they traveled deeper into the tunnel, they began to see other objects floating in the gravitational currents. Pieces of metal and crystal drifted alongside them, all moving in the same direction. Some of the debris looked familiar. "Captain," Elena said excitedly, "I am detecting intact vessels ahead. 3 ships, all disabled but structurally complete." Amy adjusted their course to intercept the nearest ship. It was made of the same living crystal as the Zephyrian patrol vessels they had encountered. As they got closer, they could see that its hull was undamaged. The ship was simply floating in the gravitational current, like a leaf on a stream. "No signs of destruction," Carlos reported. "The ship looks perfect, except for the fact that it is not moving under its own power." Captain Cross made a decision. "Nathan, Carlos, get suited up. We are going to board that ship and see what happened to its crew." 20 minutes later, Dr. Brooks and Engineer Mendez floated through the airlock of the alien vessel. Their magnetic boots clanked against the crystal floor as they made their way through corridors that glowed with soft, pulsing light. They found the crew in what appeared to be the ship's bridge. 5 Zephyrian beings sat at their stations, there, crystal bodies dim and motionless. For a moment, the humans thought they were looking at corpses. Then one of the aliens moved slightly, and Nathan realized they were still alive. "Carlos, help me get this one back to our ship," Nathan said, pointing to the smallest Zephyrian. "I need to examine them in our medical bay." Back on the Intrepid, Nathan worked to revive the alien crew member. It took several hours, but finally, the crystal being's inner light began to grow brighter. When it spoke, its voice was weak but clear. "Where am I?" the Zephyrian asked. "You are on a human ship," Nathan replied gently. "You have been unconscious for a long time. What is the last thing you remember?" The alien's light flickered as it tried to remember. "We were exploring near the Forbidden Zone. Our ship was pulled into the gravity well. Everything went dark. How long have I been asleep?" "According to our records, your ship disappeared 3 months ago," Nathan said. The Zephyrian's light flared with shock. 3 months? It felt like hours. We were trapped in some kind of loop, the same moments repeating over and over. Nathan brought the alien to the bridge where Captain Cross was waiting. The Zephyrian looked around at the human crew with amazement. "You came into the black hole to rescue us?" it asked. "We came to explore," Cross replied. "Finding you was a bonus. What can you tell us about this place?" The alien moved to the view screen and stared at the tunnel around them. "This is not what our scientists expected. Our ship's artificial intelligence detected artificial structures before we lost consciousness. The AI said this was some kind of transportation system. Dr. Rodriguez joined the conversation. Transportation to where? Unknown. But the AI calculated that we were moving toward some kind of destination. We were not just falling into a black hole. We were traveling through it. Elena studied her long-range sensors. The alien is right. We are approaching something big. Very big. On the view screen, a faint light appeared in the distance. As they got closer, the light grew brighter and more complex. Soon they could see that it was not just light, but some kind of massive structure. Amy. Foster whistled softly. Captain, you need to see this? The tunnel was ending, opening into a vast space filled with artificial structures. Massive rings of metal and energy surrounded what looked like another galaxy entirely. Ships of unknown design moved between the rings in organized patterns. Elena, are you getting this? Cross asked. Captain, we are no longer in our own galaxy. The star patterns are completely different. Somehow, this black hole transported us across space to somewhere else entirely. Carlos checked his instruments. The gravitational fields are stabilizing. Whatever this place is, it has artificial gravity control on a scale I never imagined possible. Suddenly, new voices came through their communication system. The language was completely unknown, but somehow the words translated themselves into perfect English. Welcome, travelers. You have successfully navigated the transit system. Please follow the guidance signals to the reception area. The crew looked at each other in amazement. Someone or something was talking to them, and they were being welcomed, rather than threatened. Who are you? Captain Cross asked. We are the architects. We built this network long ago as a test. You are the first organic beings to successfully complete the journey in over 1 million years. Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward eagerly. What kind of test? A test of courage and wisdom. Most species fear the unknown so much that they never attempt to explore beyond their limitations. You have proven that your species possesses the qualities we have been waiting for. Amy began following the guidance signals toward the massive structures ahead. As they got closer, they could see that the rings were actually part of a space station so large could hold dozens of planets. The other ships that were pulled in here, Cross said. What happened to their crews? They are safe. We placed them in temporal stasis while we decided what to do with them. Their fear prevented them from completing the journey consciously. They experienced the transit as an endless loop of terror. The Zephyrian crew members' light pulsed with understanding. That is what we felt. The same moments of fear repeating forever. But you humans, the architects continued, you faced the unknown with curiosity instead of terror. You modified your technology to survive what others considered impossible. You came here by choice, not by accident. The Intrepid approached the docking bays of the massive station. Captain Cross looked around at his crew and saw the same excitement in their faces that he felt in his heart. They had done more than survive a black hole. They had discovered something incredible. Architects, Cross said, we would like to learn more about your network and your test. Of course, you have earned the right to knowledge that we have kept hidden for eons. Welcome to the first day of your species' new place in the universe. As the Intrepid docked with the alien station, 50 humans prepared to discover secrets that would change everything they thought they knew about space, time, and their place among the stars. Behind them, the other trapped ships began to wake. From their long sleep, their crews finally free from the loops of fear that had held them prisoner. The black hole that had terrified the galaxy was not a death trap at all. It was a doorway, and humanity had just become the first species brave enough to walk through it. The docking bay of the architect's station was unlike anything the human crew had ever seen. The walls seemed to be made of living light that shifted and flowed like water. When Captain Cross and his team stepped off the Intrepid, they found themselves walking on solid ground that felt perfectly normal despite being inside an impossible structure. The architects appeared before them as beings of pure energy, their forms shifting between different shapes of glowing light. When they spoke, their voices seemed to come from everywhere at once, gentle but filled with ancient wisdom. "Welcome, humans of Earth," the lead architect said. "I am known as First Guide. We have waited a very long time for beings like you, too." Finest Dr. Elena Rodriguez stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming any fear she might have felt. "How long have you been here? How long has this network existed?" First Guide's energy form pulsed with what might have been amusement. "We built the first gateway 10 million years ago. Since then, we have created hundreds of them, connecting galaxies across the universe. But in all that time, only a few species have been brave enough to use them." Captain Cross looked around at the vast space surrounding them. Through transparent walls, he could see ships moving between the massive rings that surrounded the station. Some of the vessels were so large, they could have carried entire cities. "You said this was a test," Cross said. "What were you testing for?" "Courage without wisdom is dangerous," First Guide replied. "Wisdom without courage is useless. We needed to find species that had both. Most civilizations become too careful. As they grow older, they focus on avoiding risk rather than seeking knowledge." Amy Foster had been quiet since they arrived, but now she spoke up. "The other ships in the tunnel, the ones from our galaxy. What will happen to them? They will be returned safely to their home worlds. Their crews experience the transit as a nightmare because they were pulled in against their will. Fear dominated their thoughts. But you came here by choice, with hope and curiosity guiding you." Carlos Mendez was studying the technology around them with fascination. "How do you move? Entire ships between galaxies? The energy requirements must be enormous." First Guide gestured to the rings visible outside the station. "Those are gravitational amplifiers. They use the natural rotation of black holes to create stable pathways through folded space. What you call black holes are actually anchor points for a transportation network that spans the universe." Dr. Nathan Brooks had been examining the rescued Zephyrian crew member, who seemed to be recovering well from the temporal stasis. "Will the other crews be able to remember what happened here?" "That depends on what they choose to remember. Fear often makes beings forget experiences that challenge their understanding of reality. But some will remember, and they will help their species prepare for what comes next." First Guide led the human crew deeper into the station. They passed through corridors filled with knowledge archives that contained the history of thousands of civilizations. They saw laboratories where impossible technologies were developed and tested. They walked through gardens where plants from hundreds of worlds grew together in perfect harmony. "This is incredible," Elena breathed. "The scientific knowledge here could advance our civilization by thousands of years." "That is one reason we built this network," First Guide replied, "to share knowledge between worthy species. But there is a greater purpose." They entered a vast chamber with a transparent dome that showed the galaxy outside. But this was not the Milky Way galaxy where Earth was located. This was a completely different spiral of stars, beautiful but alien. "We are the last of our kind," First Guide explained. "Our physical forms died out eons ago, but we preserved our consciousness in energy patterns. We have been searching for species that could take over the responsibility of maintaining the network." Captain Cross felt the weight of those words. "You want us to become the guardians of the gateway system? Not just humans, all species that prove themselves worthy. But someone must coordinate the network, decide which civilizations are ready for contact with the greater universe. We believe humans have the right qualities for this role." Amy looked concerned. "That sounds like a huge responsibility. What if we make mistakes?" "You will make mistakes," First Guide said simply. All species do. But you will also learn from them. That is what makes you suitable for this task. Many species become paralyzed by the fear of making wrong choices. Humans seem to prefer making choices and dealing with the consequences. Elena was practically vibrating with excitement. What technologies would you share with us? What could we learn? First Guide's energy form brightened. Improved faster than light travel, matter manipulation, dimensional engineering, energy sources that could power entire star systems, medical techniques that could extend lifespans by centuries. The knowledge we have collected from 10 million years of galactic exploration. Carlos whistled softly. That would change everything. Earth would become the most advanced world in known space. Power brings responsibility. First Guide warned. If we give you these gifts, you must use them wisely. The network connects not just galaxies, but entire clusters of galaxies. Billions of species could eventually use these pathways. Someone must ensure they are used for exploration and knowledge, not conquest and destruction. Dr. Brooks raised a practical concern. How would we explain this to our own people, to the Galactic Council? They think we died in a black hole. That choice is yours to make. You can return to your galaxy and reveal everything, or you can keep the secret while you prepare your species for its new role. Some knowledge is dangerous if shared too quickly. Captain Cross thought about the Galactic Council's reaction to black holes. If they were terrified of something as simple as gravitational anomalies, how would they react to learning about an intergalactic transportation network controlled by energy beings? How many other species in our galaxy know about this? He asked. Currently 3. The Veltari discovered one gateway by accident 50,000 years ago, but they were too frightened to explore it. The Hegemony Council found evidence of artificial modifications to certain black holes, but they classified the information and buried it. The Cognitrons detected mathematical anomalies in black hole behavior, but their programming prevented them from investigating further. Elena laughed. So everyone suspected something, but they were all too scared to look deeper. Fear is the greatest barrier to discovery, First Guide agreed. It prevents species from reaching their full potential. That is why this test exists. Only those who can overcome their deepest fears are ready for the responsibilities that come with advanced knowledge. The energy being led them to a control room, where dozens of displays showed the status of gateways throughout the universe. Some were active, with ships moving through them regularly. Others had been dormant for millions of years, waiting for civilizations to develop enough courage to use them. Your galaxy has 17 gateways, First Guide explained. Most have been avoided or forbidden by local governments. If humans accept the role of network guardians, you would help other species overcome their fears and learn to use the system safely. Captain Cross looked at his crew. He saw excitement in Elena's eyes, determination in Amy's expression, fascination in Carlos's face, and thoughtful concern in Nathan's features. These 4 people, along with the rest of his crew, were being offered the chance to transform humanity's place in the universe. What do we need to do? Cross asked. First Guide's energy form pulsed with approval. Return to your galaxy. Establish contact with species that show potential for growth. Begin the process of expanding the network safely. We will provide you with the technology and knowledge you need, but the decisions will be yours to make. Elena stepped forward eagerly. When do we start? You already have, First Guide replied. The moment you chose to enter Charybdis 7, you began humanity's journey toward becoming a guardian species. Now comes the more difficult part, helping others find the courage to follow where you have led. As the human crew prepared to return to their ship and begin the journey home, they carried with them knowledge that would change everything. They were no longer just explorers who had survived the impossible. They were the newest members of A cosmic civilization that spanned the universe, and they had work to do. 6 months after the Intrepid disappeared into Charybdis 7, emergency alarms rang through the halls of Nexus Prime. The Galactic Council scrambled to assemble as reports flooded in from across known space. Human ships were emerging from black holes that had been forbidden for thousands of years. Commander Lisa Hayes walked into the council chamber with confidence she had never shown before. Behind her came Captain Ryan Cross, still wearing his Earth uniform, but now carrying himself like someone who had seen the impossible and lived to tell about it. The alien delegates stared at them as if they were ghosts returned from the dead. Elder Vextar was the first to find his voice. Commander Hayes, Captain Cross, we received reports that your ship was destroyed. How are you here? Captain Cross stepped forward with a slight smile. We went into Charybdis 7 just as we planned. What we found there was not what anyone expected. The chamber erupted in confused voices. The Zephyrian's crystals flashed with disbelief. The nebulans swirled with colors that showed their shock. Even the logical cognitrons made beeping sounds that suggested their programming was struggling to process this information. Impossible. Unit 7742 declared. No organic matter can survive beyond the event horizon of a black hole. Our calculations prove this absolutely. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now wearing the insignia of Earth's Director of Gateway Operations, activated a holographic display. Your calculations were based on natural black holes. What we discovered is that several black holes in our galaxy are not natural at all. The display showed the interior of Charybdis 7, the tunnel of twisted space, and the massive architect station beyond. The alien delegates watched in stunned silence as the evidence of an ancient transportation network filled the air before them. The beings who built this system call themselves the architects, Elena continued. They created it as a test to find species brave enough to explore the unknown. For 10 million years, they have been waiting for civilizations to overcome their fear of black holes. Captain Zaxel of the Zephyrian fleet stood up, her crystal body glowing with recognition. The missing crews from our exploration fleets, are they alive? Very much alive, Captain Cross replied. They were rescued from temporal stasis and returned safely to their home worlds. In fact, some of them volunteered to join our gateway program. Lisa Hayes took control of the presentation. The Council needs to understand what this discovery means. These gateways connect not just star systems, but entire galaxies. The transportation network spans the universe. And Earth has been chosen to help coordinate access to this system. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Elder Vextar spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. You are saying that humans now control these ... gateways? Not control. Elena corrected. Coordinate. We help species that are ready to overcome their fears and explore beyond their current limitations. The architects made it clear that the network belongs to all worthy civilizations. Unit 7742 processed this information with typical machine logic. What are the requirements for access to this transportation system? Captain Cross had been expecting this question. The primary requirement is the willingness to face the unknown without letting fear paralyze your judgment. The architects explained that most species become too cautious as they advance. They focus on avoiding risks instead of seeking knowledge. A new voice spoke from the back of the chamber. Captain Morden of the Cognitron fleet stepped forward. I request permission to modify our vessels for gateway transit. The other delegates turned to stare at the machine, being in surprise. The Cognitrons were known for their logical caution, not for taking impossible risks. Explain your reasoning, Unit 7742 demanded. Logic dictates that if humans can survive this process, it must be possible with proper preparation. The potential benefits of intergalactic travel outweigh the calculated risks. I volunteer my ship and crew for the first Cognitron Gateway mission. Elena smiled. Captain Morden, we would be happy to help you prepare for that journey. Dr. Rodriguez has developed training programs specifically for different species' psychological needs. Over the following weeks, representatives from dozens of civilizations came to Earth to learn about the Gateway system. Luna Station was expanded into a massive training facility where alien crews learned to modify both their ships and their thinking for black hole transit. The Veltari were the first to successfully complete the journey, their natural curiosity overcoming their species' traditional caution. The butterfly-like beings returned from their first gateway trip with poems describing the beauty of traveling through folded space. The Phanex took longer to prepare, spending months in meditation to overcome their warrior culture's fear of situations they could not fight. But when they finally made the journey, they embraced their new role as gateway explorers with typical Phanex enthusiasm. Even the cautious Hegemony Council eventually agreed to participate, though Elder Vextar insisted on extensive safety protocols and backup plans for their first mission. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the observation deck of Gateway Command Station, watching a mixed fleet of human and alien vessels approach. Charybdis 7, the black hole that had once terrified the galaxy, was now equipped with traffic control beacons and navigation aids. Ships from dozens of species passed through it regularly, following routes that connected their home galaxy to hundreds of others. Hard to believe it all started with 50 humans willing to fly into certain death, Admiral Ryan Cross said as he joined her at the viewing window. He had been promoted after their return, and now commanded all gateway operations in their region of space. Elena laughed. Not certain death, highly probable death. There is a difference. Amy Foster's voice came through the communication system from the pilot station. Admiral, we have 17 ships requesting transit clearance. The morning rush is getting busy. Approved, Amy. Send them through in standard formation. Elena watched the ships disappear into the swirling darkness of the black hole, knowing they would emerge safely in distant galaxies to continue their missions of exploration and trade. The architects were right about humans. We do prefer making choices to avoiding them. Speaking of choices, Cross said, we have identified 12 more dormant gateways in the outer spiral arms. Several species have expressed interest in reactivating them. Which species? The Zephyrians want to establish a gateway route to the Andromeda Galaxy. The Veltari are interested in artistic exchanges with civilizations in distant clusters. Even the Nebulans are planning research expeditions to study different types of stellar phenomena. Elena felt proud as she watched the last ship of the convoy disappear into Charybdis 7. Remember when everyone thought black holes were cosmic monsters that devoured everything? Now they are highways, Cross agreed. And Earth is the Department of Transportation. Carlos Mendez joined them at the observation window, carrying a datapad filled with technical reports. Admiral, the gateway modifications are working perfectly. We have had 0 system failures in the past 3 months. Any word from the architects? Elena asked. They sent a message yesterday. They are pleased with our progress and want to begin the next phase of integration. Apparently, there are gateway networks in other dimensions that we might be ready to explore. Admiral Cross raised an eyebrow. Other dimensions? We have barely figured out intergalactic travel. Dr. Nathan Brooks approached the group, having just completed medical examinations of the latest group of alien trainees. The psychological adaptation protocols are working well. Even species with deep-rooted fears of confined spaces are learning to handle gateway transit. Through the viewing window, they could see Earth in the distance, no longer just a small blue world on the edge of galactic civilization. It had become the hub of cosmic transportation, with ships from hundreds of species arriving and departing daily. You know what I like most about this? Elena said. What? Cross asked. We proved that fear is just another problem to solve. Every species in the galaxy was terrified of black holes, so they never bothered to study them closely enough to discover what they really were. Sometimes the biggest obstacles are the ones we create in our own minds. Amy Foster's voice came through the speakers again. Admiral, we have a new species requesting gateway access. They call themselves the Explorers, and they come from a galaxy we have never contacted before. They heard about our network from the Veltari and want to establish trade routes. Admiral Cross smiled. Tell them they are welcome to begin the training program. The universe just got a little bigger. As they watched more ships approach the gateway, Elena thought about how much had changed since that first terrifying journey into Charybdis 7. The galaxy that had once been paralyzed by fear was now connected to countless others through pathways that spanned the cosmos. Children on Earth now learned about the gateway network in school, as naturally as previous generations had learned about oceans and continents. For humanity, the universe truly had no boundaries, only new frontiers waiting to be explored by those brave enough to face the impossible and make it possible. The black hole continued its ancient dance, no longer a symbol of death and destruction, but a doorway to infinite possibilities.